Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
How amazing would it be if you could practice because you want to, not because you have to? Learn how to improve your cash flow and increase your passive income now. Go to moneyripples.com or find their podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show, to learn more.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chiropractic Philanthropist podcast. We have an amazing guest today. This is Dr. Jay Warren. Welcome, brother. Glad to have you here. And we're going to talk about some really cool things today in chiropractic, but even in the business of chiropractic. So again, welcome.
It's great to be here. It's great to see you again, Josh.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I know you've been a guest on the show in the past with Dr. Ed talking about a pediatric practice. And I know that's a booming thing for you and you've had a huge impact on the profession there. So you guys can go back and definitely listen to the old episode. I couldn't tell you what number it is, but it's been around for a long time. So tell us a little bit about yourself for those that are just meeting you for the first time, you as a chiropractor and also you as a person.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been a chiropractor for over 20 years now. Hard to believe that I've been around that long. I've had a number of different incarnations, if you will, of my practice over the years. But for the last 10 years or so, my special niche, as you said, is pregnancy and pediatrics. That really started with the birth of my son. I got more and more interested as I wanted to take care of him, and a business opportunity came around to be a part of a multidisciplinary prenatal wellness center here in San Diego. And so I'm the chiropractor. We have another chiropractor on board. We've got acupuncturists, massage therapists, pelvic floor PT. We teach breastfeeding classes, birth classes. So like my whole world now is pregnancy and babies. And I love it. I absolutely love
Awesome.
it. It's something that I just really enjoy doing all day long, and being able to be a part of bringing babies naturally into the world and what's safer it's just a privilege.
That's really cool. So outside of the chiropractic profession, I know everything in our lives ultimately revolves around chiropractic. Tell us a little bit just more about you.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm born and raised Southern California boy. So I've been here basically my whole life. I was up in San Francisco for a stint for chiropractic school, but I've been back here in San Diego, and I just love everything about the beach and surfing and that whole lifestyle. And a huge part of my life is being a dad. I mean, I have one son, Nico's 9 now, which that has just flown by, but I do a lot of work with new dads as well in this center because of the transition I went through in fatherhood and all that huge life change that can happen. It's like helping dads as well. I do another podcast for dads as well as the ones for babies. So it's really like being a dad is a really important part of like who I am. I don't want it to be everything, but it's something that just brings me a lot of joy, and I'm just really proud to be his dad.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also let's touch base because I want to come back to this. We're going to spend a bunch of time on this piece of the puzzle, but you started and found out something during the past couple of years, something called a PMA. I'm going to let you describe it, but it's something that for you all you chiropractors listening, it's a way of practicing, a business structure, if you will. So tell us a little bit about what a PMA is, what it stands for, what it means.
Sure. So a PMA is a private membership association. The incarnation my practice is in is a private health association. It's very similar, just different wording. But what a PMA is, it's a constitutionally protected business structure that allows you to run any business, but we're going to talk specifically as far as chiropractic practice, in a constitutionally protected way in the private domain that allows you to work outside of state licensure restrictions and mandates. That's how I found it. As I said, I'm in San Diego, and during the pandemic, like things here in California got really, really wonky. And there was a time, it was last summer, that our governor put out a regulation saying that in 2 months' time, all healthcare providers were going to need to receive vaccination in order to keep practicing. in order to be able to see people in a healthcare setting. And I freaked out. I mean, I've been practicing for 20 years. And in 2 months' time, I'm going to have to find another career because I certainly wasn't doing the option that was being provided by the state. So in a way of in that kind of panic of what am I going to do and how am I going to pivot and the like, I found my way to these private membership associations. And now I've structured my practice this way. Thankfully, in California, things have like throttled down, but there's always rumblings of vaccine requirements to maintain licensure. There's always rumblings of new waves of things and masking and closures and the like. And this insulates me now that I've set myself up as a private health association so that if something turns and I get an update in the morning that everything's shutting down, like my practice, I can still operate in a lawful way to be able to still see and serve the people in my community as a trained chiropractor, different than a licensed chiropractor.
Okay. So this is going to get really interesting. So let's talk about that. What's the difference between I know licensed, I'm a licensed chiropractor. I know you're probably also a licensed California, but exactly. What's the difference?
Well, so the difference is the whole structure of licensure, right? So like we both went to chiropractic school, we were trained, we took state boards, all of those things qualified us to take a test and to pay a fee to our states for asking their permission basically to practice our art. And it's that governmental structure of a license that is giving us, the doctors, a permission to be able to see the public. And it was set up to serve and protect the public. But what's happened is with further and further restrictions, it's restricting our ability to do what we came to do, which is to serve and help people through the chiropractic care. And so the difference with the licensure is, as a trained chiropractor, what people are coming to see me for is my expertise, the number of years in practice, my training, all the continuing ed I've done, all the experience I've had. They're not coming because I'm licensed. They're assuming maybe that I'm licensed because that's the dynamic that all chiropractors work with in the States. But this constitutionally protected way allows you to form your business in the private domain. You're entering into private contract, which is a 14th Amendment right, private contract with the people coming in. And we agree that these are the services and products that I deliver. This is the training that I have. Do you want to do that? The person coming in says, okay, they make an educated, informed choice by a membership agreement we have. And we enter into that agreement, and the Constitution protects us to be able to fulfill that contract in the private domain that doesn't allow the governmental licensor, boards, or even local, state, or even federal government. They don't have jurisdiction within the private domain. And jurisdiction is like the major
that's
part of
really
things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I mean, I knew nothing about this before a year ago. Like I had never heard of this. Private membership associations have been around for decades. There's constitutional amendments that are protecting it. We can go into that if you want. There's case law that's been around for hundreds of years that protect it. And it was something that brand new came about for me to learn about during the pandemic. And honestly, quite honestly, like I thought it was a scam. I thought it was like a pandemic thing of like, hey, like, let's just get a bunch of people to like form these private membership associations and take their money and run with it. But in the vetting process of, is this legitimate? I've been in practice for 20 years. I have a strong reputation in my community. I now do a lot of work in the pediatric community with the ICPA. Like I have a strong reputation there that's really important to me. And I'm not going to do anything that jeopardizes that on a whim or on a scam or out of fear because I'm afraid of practicing. So I did that vetting process and I believe in it so much. I became certified. I am able to help doctors now write the founding documents so they're protected in this way and convert their practice over to it. But I remember talking with the doc that, or the person that wrote my founding documents actually was a homeopath. He's in your state in New York. And homeopaths were taught about these private membership associations and this dynamic in school because homeopaths aren't licensed in all 50 states. The same is true for naturopaths. I've signed on a naturopath this week who I didn't know this, but naturopath doctors, they're not licensed in over half of the states in the country. So if you are a naturopath and you go to school and you want to go back to your home state that's not licensed, you either don't go to that state and those people in that state aren't served by your services and your expertise, or you have to go there and kind of fly under the radar and practice under a different way of doing things. And that's just not right. I mean, if you're trained to do these things,
hiding to practice, that doesn't make sense.
Exactly. You didn't go through all the time, money, and effort to get that training to have to fly under the radar and to hide. We should be able, we have the right to be able to do these things in private contract. And that's what this dynamic allows you to do.
Cool. So I'm thinking like a chiropractor, and I talk also to lots of chiros, and I'm thinking of a question that I would be probably asked if I was in your shoes, and maybe or maybe not, let me know. So do I have to have a cash only practice, or can I have a practice that takes both cash and insurance? But I'm not sure if the insurance requires licensure or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a really common question. The answer is most likely not as far as insurance is concerned. So insurance reimburses upon a licensed, specifically in chiropractic, a licensed chiropractor. Okay. Now, if the way you could do it, and most of the doctors I work with are cash based, and so they're not accepting insurance, but you would need to redo the contract between you and the insurance company rather than J. Warren DC. It would be within J. Warren PHA, the Private Health Association, and that's really up to the insurance company of whether or not they're going to work with that. So the doctors that do have an insurance part of their practice, they're running what I call a hybrid model, in that they have one part that might be an S Corp or an LLC, and they're function within the license, and they bill insurance that way. Maybe if they're doing like more of labs and things like that, that require a license in order to write or order those kind of testing or procedures, then they're doing that within the kind of license side, the traditional side. And then they have another element of their practice that's the PHA, that is mostly the cash practice, and all the protections as far as scope of practice and freedom of speech, mandate protections, those kind of things only apply to the private domain, not to the hybrid model, the other part of things, the traditional. So you would have to have kind of both of they're running both at the same time, but being very clear of monies and patients and procedures going into one stay separate from the other, so that it's clear that I'm operating private domain here with these protections, and then traditional model on the other side.
Okay. No, I think that's quite important, because, in our my personal practice, we are not necessarily in network with lots of insurances at all, but we do accept insurance. So I would ultimately need, if we did this, we'd need that hybrid style model available. Okay.
And I've always ever had a cash practice, but I do still give super bills. So the super billing is the same. It's a receipt that I'm giving to the patient, and the patient submitting it to their insurance company. And then that dynamic there. So you can still super bill for your patient's care that brings in. But as far as billing directly, then if the insurance company wants it for a license number on it, then you would be functioning by virtue of your license instead of in the private domain.
Got it.
How would Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Tim Ferriss create a chiropractic practice? The answer is The Payday Practice, a new book by Dr. Jeff Langmaid and Dr. Jason Deitch. The Payday Practice is the perfect solution for any chiropractic practice looking to generate monthly recurring revenue. This book provides a step-by-step process that is easy to follow and guaranteed to get results. Get your free copy today at thepaydaypractice.com. Don't wait, this offer won't last forever. The Payday Practice, recurring practice revenue the easy way. Head over to thepaydaypractice.com for your free copy now.
And just going back to protections and all of these other things we spoke pre-insurance. And you mentioned something I think that's very important, I think, for chiropractors over the past couple of years, because we tend to be vocal
Yes.
outspoken, if you will.
Yes.
You said your freedom of speech is protected. So if you said something maybe and you have a PMA or PHA during this whole 2-year debacle, 2+ year debacle, if you said, hey, this thing came from a lab, you could nobody can sue, like legally you're allowed to say what you want to say.
Yes. So the First Amendment, protecting our right to free speech, applies to all operations within that private domain. So say whatever you're saying within your practice, as far as educating them in the way that you feel in your heart is the right way, and all the expertise that you've gained, though you're free to practice and work within your training and within that private domain. Now, as far as like broadcasting things like the awesome work that you do, you're still subject to the platforms, restrictions that they put on. Yeah. But as far as scope of practice and what a chiropractor is and isn't allowed to talk about, that then would fall into the private domain if you are broadcasting and teaching in that sense of in the private domain. With the nuance that would happen though is, like, say someone hears you saying those things and like, hey, chiropractor's not allowed to talk about that, and they report you to whatever powers that be have. Those powers that be might come to you with their same kind of either a cease and desist or deplatforming or whatever. But there is, within the paperwork and the founding documents that you have as a PHA, are basically descriptions of this, your public court, your public private or a board does not have jurisdiction within this. This is a private matter, and those cases then would be thrown out if that's like a small claims court or malpractice suit or in the freedom of speech. But especially in a state where talking about common sense health issues that people need to be educated, fully informed, not telling them what to do, but just giving them the full picture
information
so they can make that informed choice, is restricted. And that's just not right. And so this allows you to educate people in the way that you see fit, and then they can make their own decisions. And then everybody gets to just operate as adults, as informed citizens, and making their own choices.
That's so powerful. It's you always felt like I had my lips tied. In New York City, we've had in our practice, and I don't know if I've ever said this on a platform like this, but we had the mayor's office come a couple of times, and one of the things that was said was someone complained that you didn't like masks, didn't like them. I'm thinking to myself, like, who doesn't like them? Like, who likes them? Like, type of thing. Like, but that's why they came to my office. So, well,
I mean, that's a personal preference. There's nothing unlawful about you expressing a preference.
Yeah, no, but it's just interesting. When you talk about like being able to have conversations with people and in the practice and giving them the choice. Say, hey, listen, this is what we understand. This is what we know. We're teaching you to make the better choices as a human being.
Right.
That's protected. And that's really powerful. Yeah, I think that's massive.
It was last year when I was going through this process trying to figure it out that I talked with a chiropractor in Boulder, Colorado. Dr. Zach Alme is his name. He shared his story with me. He's allowed me to share it, so I'll tell it here. In that Boulder, Colorado, since the beginning of the pandemic, was very restricted. Like everything was shut down, and to the extent that the Colorado Chiropractic State Board prevented chiropractors from staying open, even though they were
deemed essential.
Essential, right? Yeah. I forgot what the word was. Yeah. Essential. They still didn't want their chiropractors practicing, and Dr. Zach was like, "That's not right. I'm going to stay open." So he stayed open. He was reported by community members saying like, "Hey, they're like letting people in, and they're not masking and the like." And he went through. He had the DA's office like coming to him. The sheriff's office was in his. Sheriff's officers were in his office, and he had to actually close that. He moved to another part of town and opened up again, and they found him. And he was brought up by the state board. He was going to be closed down, and he found his way to a PMA. He's formed his practice as a PMA. He shut down the S Corp. He shut down that license part, reopened in this way. He did that within 24 hours. The sheriff's office came to his office And he gave them the papers saying, I'm functioning in the private domain. You don't have jurisdiction here. And they went away. He had people like weekly in his office for months. He was deposed by the DA in the Boulder, Colorado, in the county office. And the time I was talking with him, this was last summer, and it's been over a year, and he's practicing in this way. And so that to me was tried and true. Like, this is real, that this actually isn't just a philosophical or constitutional kind of like thought experiment that we can do it. This is with sheriff's officers and DA coming to his office, that paperwork was presented to him and they went away, and he's able to continue to serve his community. And so I am not like a flag planner and in a fight the power, that kind of way. Like, I applaud Zach for doing that. It's amazing. And he was very, very committed to that. But now I have this there that I'm not going to go like pick a fight, but this is a peaceful way of saying like, no, this is what I'm trained to do. This is what I'm trained to talk about and to educate people about it. And we've all agreed, all of us, meaning within the private membership association, to do that. And you don't have jurisdiction here. So thank you very much. And then you can proceed. It's so powerful. It's such a powerful way of being.
Yeah. So like, while we're here, tell everybody like how they can find out more. Like,
sure. So we talked a lot about things, but there's even more that I put in a webinar on my website. It's protectmypractice.org. You get a free access to the webinar. It answers a lot of other questions that come up around like malpractice and scope of practice, and is it state by state, and how do I run a hybrid model, all those kind of things. And then it also you have access to afterwards. You can book a call with me and I can explain more, see if there's other questions that you have that we didn't go over here. It's at protectmypractice.org.
Yeah. So I want to reel things back in, because I wanted to go deep in this, because this is like something that's very new to me. I'm sure it's to so many of the people, the thousands that are listening. And in the chiropractic philanthropist, we always say that we're more alike than we are different. We're more the same than we are different. Right. Yeah. So I love to hear about quotes that people have, like a favorite quote, and maybe in alignment with, maybe your new pivot in life here, new transformation in your practice. You have a favorite quote?
Yeah, I found this in going through my due diligence of things, and it's a quote from BJ that, he has so many great quotes, as does DD, but with BJ Palmer's quote about that just resonates with what we're talking about. He said, I will sell chiropractic, serve chiropractic, and save chiropractic if it would take me 20 lifetimes to do it. I will promote it within the law, without the law, in keeping with the law, or against the law, in order to get sick people well and to keep the well from getting sick. And when I found that quote, that just resonated like deep within me, that this thing that we are trained and living as chiropractors, like to bring to the masses, is something we need to fight for. And we have the ability to make just powerful, powerful changes in people's lives and their health. And it shouldn't be taken away by the whims of the political climate. And so with BJ, like planting his flag in that time way, like I will fight for it no matter what for 20 lifetimes. And he says in there, like within the law, without the law, against the law, this is not against the law. This is completely lawful. This is protected within the Constitution. So this isn't about being a renegade and a rebel and like just going crazy and going way outside of the box. I guess it is outside of the box, but it's not outside of the lawful box. It's protected. And it's a way that we can continue to our profession on, rather than it being either, I don't think it'll ever be eliminated, because we have people like yourselves and so many other chiropractors there that want to fight for what we do, but it shouldn't be diminished and lessened because of state licensure issues.
That's so great. I remember that quote. I didn't remember it all, but I'm pretty cool. You have it memorized. I don't think you probably have no screen in front of you, unless you have it on the wall behind, like in front of you. That's so cool. So let's do like a little time machine. If you had to go back to when you were in school, I'm guessing I know the answer. Like, what would you tell your like just graduating self?
Yeah, I wish I had just been more bold to tell the truth sooner, tell the truth in a chiropractic story sense, I guess I was very like timid when I first started in practice and unsure of myself. And I'm certain that's part of everyone's process, is to like ground yourself and to have more experience to be able to tell the story.
Yeah.
And it took me a lot longer than I wish, like what I'm doing now, 20 years in, like if I could have that voice and that certainty way back when, whatever I could have downloaded into my brain back then, I would have done it because I would have been able to help more people.
Very cool. I think that's great. I think that's, when I hear that people answer this question, I never know what I'm going to get. And I love, the boldness. And I think that is probably true for probably 95% of the profession. Like that would be something like, I wish I was just a little bit more bold, because we can get into our ruts and our grooves and things get easy. We can create some success. We have some fun. We see these miracles in our practice, but then we don't charge as hard.
Right.
So that's really cool. And I think I'm in alignment with you myself. I think that's an always thing. I think we always need to push a little bit more, push that envelope a little bit more and tell that story. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So let's go over a few. Well, do you have anything else on the PMAs you think that like people need to know? Like, I need to tell you this now.
No, we covered so much on it, and it is just such a paradigm shift. I don't want to say a shift, but it's just a new way of thinking, like without having to ask for permission. I mean, talk about being bold. Like I'm a rule follower. Like what do I do? Oh, I go to school and I take my boards and I pass jurisprudence and I pay my license and I do all these things. And, oh, I'm not allowed to do that. Okay. So I won't. And then it got to a pushing point of like, wait a minute. It's like, I'm being told all these things I can't. So the PMA then is really a space, and it's not for everybody, because with freedom comes responsibility, right? So with the freedom to be able to operate this way and to speak this way and deliver goods and services in this way, there is this responsibility of you being able to maintain that and protect that practice there. You have the Constitution on your side, of course, but there isn't a malpractice board. There isn't a state board that's going to protect you if something comes in. You need to do it for yourself, and it's a way of you stepping into more and more power.
Yeah, that's so good. So cool. So let's go with our three final questions then. Lightning round. You ready? So who's the greatest influence on the person you are today?
It's my parents. I don't know if that's a cheesy one, but both my mom and my dad bring so many different things. Like my dad is this like gentle, peaceful, like I always say, like I learned the gentle part of being a gentleman from my dad, and his like love and security that I got from him. And my mom is like Spitfire. She's like a doer, a goer, like let's get on this. So bringing both of those have made me who I am.
Great. What's the best advice you have ever received?
The best recite. Well, it's one that I'm constantly trying to remind myself, is to really be bold and be you. I guess it's more be you. I guess because I've been so indoctrinated into like rule following, that being me is bold, versus other people are like, of course, I'm just me, right? That's not bold. That's just what I do. But that constantly, whether it's in business practice or chiropractic practice or personal development or with friends, be you, Jay. Just be you.
Very cool. What invaluable resource, whether it's a book, a podcast, something, right, that you can't live without?
I can't live without. Gosh, as a chiropractor, and finding my way to PMAs, and there's a whole like faith-based organization part of this element that provides other protections. I found my way back to the green books, which as a chiropractor, thankfully going to Life West, philosophy was like a very big part of my education. And I actually know what the green books are. And we talked about them. And as life goes on, you get busy in practice and going, and that philosophy was in me, but it wasn't as expressed. And so finding my way back to Didi's original writings, like I've been reading through those again, and they're just so, so powerful. The moral and religious duty of a chiropractor, like that very cool essay I'm reading right now is incredible.
Yeah, literally you went back to the foundation, right? of the profession, right? Literally.
Right.
Literally. So also, would you just share the link one more time for the PMA?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's protectmypractice.org.
Okay, awesome. So everybody, make sure you head over there, head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com, scroll down. We'll have the links for Dr. J, like his actual chiro stuff as well, not just the PMA, because he bleeds chiropractic. If you haven't figured this out, yeah, you cut him open, that's what falls out, right? Is chiropractic. So Dr. J, Warren, brother, this has been awesome. It's good coming back. We used to be so connected and I haven't spoken to you in so long. So glad to have you on the show. Glad to have the connection again in the pre-chat. So I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I've loved spending time with you again, brother. Thank you.
And thanks for giving back to profession. This is, you're doing it in more than one way. So much gratitude there.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.